Security, please remove this woman. My fiancé doesn't want her kind here. The command sliced through the soft hum of cocktail conversation like a blade. I was frozen in the gilded entrance of the Boston Harbor Hotel, my fingers still wrapped around the edge of the heavy oak door. My heart didn't just pound. It seized, a painful, physical grip in my chest that made the room swim. The crystal chandeliers overhead blurred into 1,000 points of light. Standing 20 feet away, looking like a stranger in a perfectly tailored suit, was my little brother, Liam, the boy whose diapers I'd changed, the teenager I'd tutored in calculus, the man whose entire career I'd bankrolled, and next to him, beaming with a cold, satisfied smile, was his fiancée, Chloe. "You've always been a liability, dragging us down," Liam continued, his voice carrying to every corner of the room. "You think showing up here, uninvited, trying to cling to our success, is going to change that?" The reception hall was a masterpiece of understated wealth. Floor to ceiling, windows offered a panoramic view of the Boston skyline. Everywhere I looked, I saw faces I recognized from Liam's world, VCs from Sand Hill Road, CTOs of publicly traded startups, engineers I'd personally recruited for his company, Lumineer Tech. A man in a Brioni suit whispered to his companion, loud enough for me to hear, "Who is that? She looks completely lost." I was wearing a perfectly respectable navy cocktail dress. It didn't matter. In that moment, I wasn't just underdressed, I was unwanted. My presence was a stain on their perfect, curated image. The question is, why was I even there? I didn't cry, I didn't plead. The tears were there, a hot pressure behind my eyes, but a deeper, colder feeling was already taking root. I simply met Liam's gaze, then Chloe's, and said 2 words. "Understood. Congratulations." I turned and walked back through the door, the heavy wood thudding shut behind me, severing me from the life I'd built for him. As I walked down the marble corridor towards the elevator, I could hear the band start up again, a jaunty, carefree swing tune. They were celebrating, and I was nothing. If a stranger had said those words, I would have felt a flash of anger and forgotten it by the next block. But this was Liam. This was the reason I had no life of my own. We grew up in a cramped walk-up in Somerville, Massachusetts. Our father, a union ironworker, was killed in a job site accident when I was 15 and Liam was just 7. My mom, God love her, tried. She worked double shifts at a 24-hour diner and cleaned offices at night. But the strain was too much. Her health, always fragile, collapsed. Congestive heart failure. I was the oldest. I was the one who had to step up. I watched my dreams of going to Boston College disappear. I enrolled at Bunker Hill Community College part-time and took a full-time job as a customer service rep for a telecom company. Every single paycheck was meticulously divided. Rent, Mom's medications, and Liam's future. I bought his first real computer, a second-hand Dell Precision, with my Christmas bonus. I paid for his SAT prep course. I stayed up with him until 2 a.m., learning Java right alongside him so I could help him with his AP computer science projects. I filled out his financial aid forms for MIT. When that thick acceptance envelope finally arrived, I sobbed on the kitchen floor. He hugged me tight, his voice thick with promise. "One day, sis, I'm going to buy you a house on the Cape. You won't have to lift a finger, you'll see." We'd spend hours watching tech keynotes, dreaming of the day he'd build something world-changing. "Just focus on your classes," I'd tell him. "I'll handle everything else." I didn't just raise my brother. I built the launchpad for his ambitions, and I never saw the monster I was creating. The wedding was at the Boston Harbor Hotel. The aesthetic was pure tech elite, minimalist, sleek with pops of aggressive luxury. Flat-screen displays throughout the ballroom cycled through a slideshow. Liam's journey. Photos of him at the MIT Media Lab, him shaking hands with a senator, him accepting an award. My name was nowhere. My face was nowhere. I was his origin story, and he had edited me out. I had steeled myself for awkwardness. I had told myself it was a simple oversight. But when Liam spotted me, his face didn't register surprise. It registered fury. He stormed over, grabbed my arm, his fingers digging in hard. "What are you doing here?" he hissed. "Liam, come on. It's your wedding. Of course I'm here." I tried to keep my voice light to de-escalate. "I didn't send you an invitation." he spat, his voice rising. I didn't invite some broke liability here to make this about you. The room went quiet. I felt the collective weight of 200 stares. Liam, I don't understand, I whispered, my voice betraying me. You've done nothing but hold me back my whole life, he said, his voice dripping with venom. You think just because you wrote a few checks when I was in college you get to crash my wedding? You're not part of this. He gestured grandly at the opulent room. Chloe glided over, placing a placating hand on his chest, but her eyes, when they flicked to me, were pure victory. I saw them. Tom Okonkwo, a partner at a top-tier VC firm I'd introduced Liam to. Sarah Velez, a lead developer I'd poached from my own company for him. Marcus Thorne, an old business school friend of mine who'd become one of his first enterprise clients. Their faces were a complex map of confusion, pity, and dawning realization. A cold, sharp clarity descended on me. The shaking stopped. Okay, I said, my voice calm and steady. Fine. I turned and walked out, my heels clicking on the marble floor, each step a small act of severance. As the elevator doors closed, I could hear the MC's booming voice. And now, let's raise a glass to the self-made man of the hour, Liam Byen. The company I had funded, nurtured, and bled for, and he was a self-made man. I drove back to my apartment in Quincy in a daze. The Southeast Expressway was a river of red taillights. I tried the radio, but every song felt like a personal attack. My apartment, a modest one-bedroom I'd bought myself, felt alien. I sat on the edge of my bed, still in my dress, and just stared at the wall. That's when my phone erupted. First, a call from Liam. I stared at his name and felt. Nothing, I let it ring, then another and another. Then the texts started, dozens of them from Liam. Pick up, people are asking questions. Chloe is freaking out, why would you do this? Call me back, now. From the family group chat. Is everything okay with you and Liam? From my mom's number, but I knew she didn't type that well. Liam says you're not answering, call your brother. Then the texts from people I hadn't expected. Tom Okonkwo, Liam's behavior tonight was alarming. We need to discuss my firm's investment. I was not aware of the full scope of your involvement with Lumineer. Sarah Velez, what the hell was that? I had no idea you weren't welcome. This changes my perspective on the company culture. Marcus Thorne, Adriana, I'm sorry, that was brutal. Let's talk Monday. Some of us know where the real value in that company came from. I sat on my bed, watching the numbers climb. 50 missed calls, 100, 187 text messages. My phone was a frantic, buzzing hive of panic, but I felt an eerie, preternatural calm. For the first time in 15 years, my mind wasn't consumed by Liam's needs, Liam's company, Liam's future. I was thinking about mine. And I realized he hadn't just humiliated his sister. He had publicly fired his founding investor, in front of all his investors. I silenced my phone and placed it on the nightstand. A single thought crystallized, hard and bright as a diamond. I'm not a broke liability. I'm not a liability at all. I am an asset he just publicly liquidated. And it's time for him to see the terms of the contract he just broke. 5 years earlier, Liam had called me, his voice buzzing with startup energy. Adriana, I've got it. The idea. An AI-driven logistics platform for small manufacturers. It's going to be huge, but we need seed funding for the prototype. By then, I was a senior director of data infrastructure at a health tech firm in Cambridge. I was finally, after years of scraping by, financially stable. Send me the deck, I said. He sent a rough but promising 15-slide presentation. We spent that entire weekend on the phone, refining it, strengthening the financial model. If you're serious, I can invest $35,000, I offered. It was the bulk of my savings. He cried. I'll pay you back tenfold. You'll be on the board. You'll be my partner. I met Chloe a few weeks later. She was polished, confident, a Wharton MBA from a wealthy Connecticut family. You must be the legendary Adriana, she said, her handshake firm. Liam talks about you constantly. It's so inspiring how you gave up everything for him. At the time, it felt like validation. Over the next 2 years, my investment grew. Another $60,000. Then I co-signed a $100,000 business loan. I spent my evenings reviewing their code, leveraging my network for introductions, and even presenting alongside Liam at early-stage pitch competitions. I wasn't just a checkbook. I was a co-architect. But things shifted. Chloe took over as Chief Strategy Officer. She was brilliant at branding, but her strategy seemed to be editing me out. At meetings, it started subtly. Adriana, your operational experience is valuable, but startup velocity requires a different risk profile. Honey, your sister is amazing, but investors need to see a unified founder story. It gets confusing with too many voices. Liam, who used to defend me, started nodding. When Inc. magazine did a profile on New England's rising tech stars, it featured Liam and Chloe, co-founders. My name was absent. My 35% equity stake was a silent footnote. At family gatherings, I'd hear Chloe say, Adriana is so generous, but it's really Liam's vision and grit that's driving this. Money is just money, you know? And Liam would just smile. I felt it then, that sickening lurch. I had become a wallet with a pulse. But this time, instead of crying, I opened my laptop. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. 150 missed calls now. I ignored it. I pulled up my secure digital archive. Lumineer Tech's incorporation documents, the convertible note from 2019, the Series A investment agreement, the promissory note for the co-signed loan, bank transfer confirmations. I opened my private master spreadsheet, the one I'd kept since day one. Seed investment, $35,000. Series A bridge, $60,000. Co-signed loan, $100,000. Operational expenses covered, $22,000. Total capital and liability, $217,000. But the money was just the tip of the iceberg. I pulled up the founding charter. There it was, Adriana Bianchi, co-founder and seed investor, 35% equity, board observer rights. I found the IP assignment forms. My old GitHub username was on the initial commits for the core algorithm. The domain Lumineer Tech, EO, was registered to my email address. The provisional patent application had my name listed as a co-inventor. My hands weren't shaking with sadness. They were steady, my mind laser-focused. I called my friend Priya, a brilliant corporate litigator in New York. It was past midnight, but she answered immediately. Priya, I need a consult, now. Adriana, you sound strange. What's wrong? My brother just had me publicly ejected from his wedding for being a broke liability. But I'm also a 35% equity holder in his company. What are my rights? I heard the rustle of papers, the clack of a keyboard. Send me everything, right now. I spent the next hour forwarding documents. When Priya called back, her voice was crisp, all business. Okay, listen. Based on this, Liam is in a world of trouble. He can't just erase you. You have substantial rights. More importantly, his public behavior, humiliating a key stakeholder in front of your entire investor and partner base, could be seen as a breach of his fiduciary duty. If investors get spooked, if partners pull out, he could be personally liable for the damages. You have options, Adriana. You can call an emergency board meeting, trigger a buy-sell agreement, or even file for judicial dissolution if the company is being mismanaged. The documents don't care about feelings. You're not just his sister. You're his partner. And he just committed a massive act of self-sabotage. I hung up and stared at the screen. For years, I thought I was his engine. Turns out I was also the brake, and I was about to take my foot off the pedal. I woke up the next morning at 5:30 a.m., a calm sense of purpose washing over me. No more tears, no more self-doubt, just action. First, I drafted a careful, professional email to the investors and partners who'd reached out. Thank you for your messages following the unfortunate incident at Liam and Chloe's wedding. To provide clarity, I feel it's important to formally state my role with Lumineer Tech. I am a co-founder and seed investor, holding a 35% equity stake, and have been actively involved in the company's strategic and technical development since its inception. In light of recent events, I am currently reviewing my position and intend to initiate formal discussions regarding corporate governance and leadership. I will be in touch soon. I sent it to 15 key people. Within an hour, replies flooded in. Tom Okonkwo wrote, I was entirely unaware of your formal role. This sheds new light on the company's foundation. Let's talk immediately. Next, I called the bank. I need to review the terms of the $100,000 commercial loan I personally guaranteed for Lumineer Tech LLC. The officer pulled the file. Ms. Bianchi, you have a 30-day revocation clause in your personal guarantee. You can withdraw it. Yes, I'm invoking that clause. Please send the termination paperwork. I contacted the company's registered agent, formally requesting a full audit of the cap table and all financials for the last 24 months, my right as a major shareholder. I filed the paperwork to call an emergency board meeting. Then, I made 2 calls to senior engineers I had personally recruited. Hey, just a heads up. There might be some significant management changes at Lumineer. If you're concerned about stability, I have a network and I'm happy to make some introductions. One of them, a brilliant woman named Anya, sighed with relief. Honestly, Adriana, I've been looking. The culture has turned toxic. Liam and Chloe make unilateral decisions and blame the team when they fail. If you know of anything, please. I didn't trash Liam. I just opened doors and let the natural consequences of his actions walk through them. By the end of that week, Liam had left 60 new voicemails. The tone had shifted from anger to panic. Adriana, Tom is asking for a governance review. What did you tell him? The bank called. They're pulling the credit line. We can't make payroll. Please, you have to fix this. I'm sorry about the wedding. Chloe was stressed. It was a nightmare. Let's just talk. I listened to each one, archived them, and said nothing. Over the next 2 months, I watched the beautiful, fragile house of cards that Liam had built collapse in slow motion, and I did absolutely nothing to stop it. First, Tom Okonkwo's firm, Apex Ventures, withdrew their $2 million series a term sheet. The official reason was concerns regarding operational transparency. The real reason was they no longer trusted the CEO. Without that funding, Lumineer missed their Q2 hearing targets, falling behind a key competitor. Then Sarah Velez resigned, taking 2 senior developers with her. Her exit interview, which made its way back to me, cited a culture of dishonesty and executive unaccountability. Next, Marcus Thorne's company, a massive manufacturing co-op, suspended their integration partnership, a deal worth nearly $750,000 in annual recurring revenue. Marcus's email was short and final. We need a stable partner. We can't have this kind of drama at the top. Then the dominoes really started to fall. Without my personal guarantee, the line of credit vanished. Lumineer couldn't pay their AWS bill. The platform went dark for 10 hours. The outage was a PR disaster, trending on tech Twitter for all the wrong reasons. Clients started jumping ship. Liam's texts became desperate, then abusive. You're destroying everything. Mom is devastated. You're tearing this family apart. I finally responded once through Priya. The message was simple. All actions are within my contractual rights. Have your lawyer contact mine. Meanwhile, cracks in Liam's picture-perfect marriage started to show. Chloe's Instagram, once a highlight reel of startup wife glamour, turned into a stream of cryptic, melancholic quotes. You can't build a castle on a foundation of sand. The people you use to get to the top will be the ones who watch you fall. The final blow came when the remaining investors dug into the financials. They found discrepancies. Company funds were being funneled into personal luxuries. Chloe's designer wardrobe, a private retreat in the Berkshires that was just them and her friends, a new Tesla Model S. It was a clear breach of fiduciary duty. The board demanded Liam's resignation. He refused. They voted him out. I abstained, letting the process play out. 3 months after the wedding, Lumineer Tech was sold in a fire sale to a competitor for pennies on the dollar. As a preferred equity holder, I walked away with $162,000, not the millions we'd once dreamed of, but a recovery of most of my investment. Liam got nothing. His shares were worthless, wiped out by the dilution from the mismanagement penalties. I heard through the grapevine that Chloe had left him, moving back to Connecticut. He was crashing on a friend's couch in Southie, his reputation in the Boston tech scene in tatters. I didn't celebrate. I didn't gloat. I just watched the natural order of things reassert itself. 6 months after the acquisition closed, I got a call from an unknown number. I answered. Adriana. It was Liam. His voice was hollow, broken. It's me. I know, I said. What do you need? Can we just talk, please, just 5 minutes? I didn't hang up. I waited. He started talking, the words tumbling out. It's all gone. The company, Chloe, everything. She filed for divorce. I'm living in Danny's basement. I have like 12 grand in credit card debt. No one in the industry will take my calls. I messed up. There was a long pause. I messed up so bad. I let her convince me that you were just trying to control me, that you were holding me back. I wanted to believe it. I wanted to be the self-made man so badly. But you built me. You built all of it. You carried me our whole lives, he whispered, his voice cracking. And I called you a liability. My throat tightened, but I held my voice steady. Why are you telling me this now? Because I have to, because I was a monster to you, because I called you a broke liability when you are the only reason I was ever an asset to anyone. Another pause, heavier this time. Can I come stay with you, just for a little while, until I get a job? I'll pay you back, I swear. No, the word was firm but quiet. Adriana, please, you always. Exactly, I always have. And that's the problem. I've been your safety net for 20 years. And every time you learned that you could fall, that you could take me for granted, and I'd still be there. If I let you come now, I'm not helping you. I'm just teaching you the same lesson again, that my love means I have no boundaries. I took a breath. I love you, Liam. You're my brother, but you need to figure this out, on your own. What am I supposed to do? He asked, his voice small. Exactly what I did when I was 15 and Dad died. You survive, you adapt, you build something yourself. I hung up, I didn't block him, but I didn't call back, and for the first time I didn't cry. A year later, I was sitting in my new condo in the South End. It was sunny, airy, decorated exactly how I wanted. I'd taken a job as the chief technology officer for a renewable energy startup in Somerville. It was a real C-level role with real equity. My work was valued, my opinion sought after, on my own terms. I'd heard through family that Liam had gotten a job as a senior developer at a mid-sized fintech firm. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a real job. He was in therapy. He'd even started a small blog about his experience, about ego and accountability. He never named me, but he wrote about the person who sacrificed the most for me and how I threw it away. It wasn't an apology to me, but it was evidence of growth, real growth. Maybe someday we'd find a way back to each other, but it would be different. There would be fences now, and gates, that I controlled. I thought about all the people, especially the oldest daughters and the caretakers, who give and give until they disappear into the lives of others. The ones who measure their worth in sacrifice and confuse love with self-destruction. To them, I'd say this: you can love your family and still protect your own soul. Generosity without limits isn't love. It's a slow erasure. Boundaries aren't a withdrawal of love. They are the definition of it. I used to be the engine for someone else's dream. Now I'm the founder of my own life. And that is the only empire that matters.